Hello and welcome to Off the Fence, a podcast where we deconstruct difficult decision making to try to figure out what keeps us stuck, and more importantly, how do we get unstuck? I'm your host, Karen Covey, a former divorce lawyer, mediator, and arbitrator turned coach, author, and entrepreneur. With me today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Gabriela Embon. And Gabriela is a certified coach and author who believes that a fulfilling adult life hinges on two essential components: an ideal career and a thriving primary relationship. In the last 2 decades as a coach, Gabriela has dedicated herself to helping couples build fulfilling and enduring relationships. Gabriela utilizes the analytical and problem-solving skills from her engineering background and applies them to the intricacies of human relationships. By combining the precision of engineering with the emotional depth of human behavior, she empowers couples to transform their relationship and become power couples, which is coincidentally the title of her book, which is Becoming a Power Couple: 4 Pillars to Engineer Legendary Marriages. So, Gabriela, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show. I'm so excited for our conversation.
Thank you for having me. It always touches my heart when I see people holding my book. Thank you for doing that.
I am so excited. I love this book. But anyways, we'll get into that in a minute. But before we get into the book, I think people might be interested a little bit in your backstory. How did you go from engineering to relationship coach?
Okay. Yeah. So when I work as an engineer, the part that I loved the most was solving problems and helping, the company that I was working for create extraordinary things. But I knew that to create something extraordinary, you actually have to invest, you have to commit, you have to measure and course correct. Turns out that I wasn't so passionate about producing Pentium 4s as much as I was about relationships and people. So I decided to transfer all my skills plus the coaching certification into coaching individuals and couples. So basically, that's the story. I initially started coaching individuals on personal development when I graduated as a coach. And I noticed something very strong, that people could achieve great success in their careers, but without a strong, thriving relationship, it felt like something was missing. Because I do believe that relationships are the foundation of our lives, and they have a huge ripple effect on anything, including our professional life, of course. So that realization led me to develop the life engineering framework, basically, which I share in my book of Becoming a Power Couple. So couples can have a very clear, structured, strategic, and result-oriented approach to building a legendary relationship. Pretty
I
much
love
like
that.
building a product.
Yeah, I love that. And I know you and I are also, we are very like-minded, and we're also on the same page about how you begin that relationship and who you begin it with. So if you're okay to share a little bit about your backstory in that regard too, that would be beautiful.
Yeah. So I was engaged to someone else, not my husband. After dating this man for 5 years, I was engaged to get married. And a month before the wedding, I just call it off. Now, I canceled the wedding simply because the night before I made that decision, I had a dream. And in my dream, I was entering the altar, and the person that I was waiting for me, that I was supposed to marry, was not my fiance at the time. It was my husband today. When I saw his face, when he turned, it was my husband today. So it made me realize that I was going to make a mistake, that I was compromising. Today, I believe we shouldn't compromise on that. And I was convincing myself that this is the right move. But the message came very clear: this is not the right person for you. So, of course, the next day, I actually canceled the wedding.
That, first of all, kudos to you because you probably know this as much as I do working with people. I work with a lot of people who are going through a divorce, and there are so many of them who said, I knew it right
Yeah.
from the start. I knew it before the wedding, but they didn't have the courage to call off the wedding because the invitations had gone out, the venue was there, like they had all the things lined up and they didn't think that they could. So kudos to you that you had the courage to do that.
Yeah, I think it was because the message was so strong. And the next day we got into an argument. And honestly, I think it was higher power who guided me over the phone to just say, that's it, it's over. I think when we're young, we're more courageous than than at this age, that's for sure. And I was very young. Um, but yes, relating to what you mentioned, when I work with couples, many times I work with couples that are on second marriages, and now they want to do it right, right? They want to have their best practices. So I asked them about their previous partner. I say, when did when did you know you're going to divorce? And they most say, well, I knew that from the beginning.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't the right person. So we see the signs, we see the red flags. The soul knows. The soul knows. But then the brain is also very powerful in keeping us where we are and keeping the status quo and not, rocking the boat. So it takes that courage to be able to say, no, I'm going to listen to my soul. And because at the end of the day, you are the person that needs to live with that person, not
Yeah.
others, right? Everybody has something to say, that's true, but it is your life.
Yeah. 100%. And let's talk about people who are already in a new marriage, right? Or
Mhm.
in a marriage, whether it's your first, your second, your 10th, however many, and they want to do it right. They want to become a power couple. I guess it's two questions I have for you. Number one is, what is a power couple in your definition? And number two, how can people do that? Because I think fundamentally at our core, that's what everybody is looking for, is real love and real connection that would come from that kind of a relationship. So what is it and how can people get that?
If you think about it, Karen, for the most part, when we perceive that we made a mistake, when something we didn't turn out to be well, our brain is strong enough to keep us from trying again. It prevents us from trying again. But there is something about relationships, there's something about marriage that no matter how many times it didn't work, we will try again. And the reason that we will try again is because, like, exactly what you said, the soul is yearning for that connection. Deep inside, we all want that deep connection, that feeling of oneness. And that is usually stronger than the regrets of the mistakes or the fears of not working, this relationship not working like the previous one. But any other aspect of your life, most people, after it didn't go well, won't try again,
Yeah.
except marriage. It says so much about it, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah, it really does say a lot about it, how strong the pull is in our soul to be connected with another person. But the struggle that so many people have, and you and I work on like two different sides of the coin, but I think we both have the same beliefs. It's like if the marriage can work, if you can get your needs met inside of that marriage, do that all day long. But if you can't, then, it's about getting a divorce and maybe going on to a second marriage. But when someone comes to you, if a couple comes to you and they're like, this isn't working, we're in trouble, what can they do to build that depth of connection so that they can become a power couple?
So then, when a couple comes and they have a connection crisis, as we say, we start working strategically with the four pillars, right? That are described in the book. It starts with the me pillar of helping the couple take responsibility and ownership of their own wants and what their own personal work, and then being able to create a bridge of awareness and emotional intimacy when I can say, these are my issues. These are my issues. This is not about you. But being able to share that with your partner in a very vulnerable way to create emotional intimacy. So if my partner knows this is where I usually get triggered, they'll do their best. They're not responsible for me, but they'll do their best not to touch those wounds, not to say those things. So
Mhm.
that's the me pillar is all about me working on myself. You know,
So the me pillar is the
is the
first of
first
the four
pillar.
pillar.
I
Okay.
did a career change, okay, because I was not happy. And I don't see how, no matter how amazing my husband is, he could have, um, you know, patch that lack of satisfaction and misalignment that I was at in that moment. It was up to me to recognize and to course correct. And I don't think we could have become a power couple if I didn't take responsibility for my own personal fulfillment, because I wouldn't be a happier person. I wouldn't
I
be at my
love
best.
I love that, and I really hope people hear what you're saying is that you didn't make your personal happiness your husband's job, right? It was your job first to say, what's really bothering me? What am I unhappy about? What's working? What's not working? And do the work on yourself first, and then go to, I expect we'll get to the other three pillars.
That's right. That's right. Um, in the book, I say you cannot outsource your happiness to your partner. And that's really important. So the first pillar is all about the self-discovery that I had to go through, the personal growth, the emotional intelligence, and shifting from reactivity to self-regulation. Really, this is taking ownership for what you need to work on, your own baggage. That's the first pillar. So we start working on that pillar, and at the same time, I don't want to make this look like a very linear process because the pillars are intertwined.
Hmm.
But we also work on the second pillar, which is the you pillar. And the you pillar is understanding and nurturing your partner. So if the first pillar nurtures me,
Hmm.
it helps me understand myself and nurture myself. The second pillar is understanding and nurturing your partner,
Okay.
right? To build that deep connection, we have to understand our partner, where they are today, and not assume that we know them, because we might have known them, but people change. So many times we think, oh, I already know everything about you. No, you don't. And maybe you know all my past, but you don't know where I am today. So the goal here with the you partner is to develop that deep emotional attunement and trust, but learning how to truly see, hear, and support our partner. In other words, in the most simple words, be your partner's BFF, right?
I love that. I really do because at some point, especially when relationships are in crisis, right? That BFF part tends to go out the
Oh, yeah,
window.
we can become nasty.
No, no. But yeah, so the first pillar is me, the second pillar is you. What's pillar number three?
Pillar number 3 is the hour. It's about strengthening the relationship as a unit and as partnership. It's pretty much the most common analogy that I give is see a relationship as a business with two shareholders. So you're creating together, you're building together, you're engineering. You have two engineers working on the same project. So you have to have a clear vision of where you're going. Obviously, that's where we always start. And a vision that can uphold each individual's dreams as well as the common dreams. And then we want to have the right rituals and habits that keep the business healthy. And that's where we work with the 3 C's: communication, coordination, and collaboration.
Okay. Let's say a couple comes to you and they have communication issues because most couples do. I mean, it's not something we're taught in school, although we probably should be, but don't get me started. So, they come to you, their marriage is in crisis, they don't communicate well. How can you help them? And is there a point at which it's just gone too far?
I think that the only point when you say it's too far is when the couple has given up, when there's no desire or willingness to resolve it. as long as the couple has ideally a desire, but at least a willingness that can turn into desire, we can work because we're always growing, right?
Yeah.
There's no deadline. As long as we engage in a productive process, it can work. But if the person is not committed to the process, if the person doesn't have, if they have checked out already, then it's very difficult, obviously, to do that. Now, usually communication issues are the result of connecting issues. So there's a crisis in the connection. And it's very difficult to start fixing things when people feel they're in two different teams. So my first goal, it's pretty much think about a company, okay, a corporation. When things are not going well, the first thing that we do is team building. Why do we do team building? We want to make sure that everybody feels like you're in the same boat and they're together and not opponents. So pretty much the same we do with the relationship. We first work on connection, and then we work on addressing the issues and how we resolve conflict and the rest. But if we don't feel we are in the same boat, if we feel we are opponents, that someone has to win and obviously the other lose, it's very difficult. So my first goal is always to create the right rituals and habits to help the couple reconnect. And then from there, we can go into resolving what needs to be resolved and how we communicate and so on.
When you say rituals, you've said that, a couple of times, rituals and habits for the couple to connect. What do you mean by that? Can you give me an example?
Yeah. So we're very busy, right? Busier than ever. But what I love about rituals is that they make us pause, and they give space for what has meaning for us. A ritual is another way of saying, this is important for me, therefore I'm going to pause and I'm going to do this. So we have rituals in families have rituals, even if it's a movie night or pizza night. It's a ritual that brings the family together and says, no matter what, on that day, you don't make plans, you pause, and we give priority to this. So the same, rituals keep the relationship healthy and the connection alive, because we don't always feel like connecting, because we have worries. We come from work with a lot of stuff on our mind. So the rituals help us stay committed even on the days we don't feel like it. They help us stay actively intentional in the way we do marriage. And we have rituals about communication. We have rituals that are within the hour pillar, which is all about making sure that this business is functioning properly and everybody's needs are being met. So whether it's daily coordination or weekly meetings to plan the week, things like that, or I call them communication on demand. When someone is going through, let's say, a more busy or difficult time at work, we need to talk and see how we support each other in this case. And then we have rituals that are to keep the unity, the oneness, the as pillar, the last pillar, which we call them weekly date, that word ran away. So a weekly date, whether you have the coffee in the morning together or you have a 15 minutes catch up at night, any rituals that you and your partner have in order to connect. Like I'll give you an example. I love the rituals of physical connection. So for example, my husband and I, every morning when we wake up, we cuddle. It's a ritual. I don't even think about it. It becomes a second nature. It's a habit. I don't need to think about it. We just turn to each other and we cuddle. Even on the days that I probably wouldn't miss it if I don't, because it's something we do. It's our thing.
Right.
Right. When we say goodbye in the morning, we come to the door to say goodbye and we kiss each other. And when somebody comes home, we come to the door to greet the person, even if it's the children. We come to the door to greet the person, even if I need to come down from the second floor, because I want this person and I want myself, when I come home, to feel that this is my home, that somebody's waiting for me. Although I have a golden, so I always will feel welcome, because nothing beats that feeling of
the dog loves you no matter what.
Yes, but still, that feeling that You don't need to ask, is anybody home?
Yeah.
Somebody is greeting you, welcoming you. This is your safe haven. So these are rituals that bring meaning. And
Right.
these are usually small things, right?
Does
It's
it
not,
matter what the ritual is as long as you have something, or are there certain rituals that are more powerful?
I think what matters is what it means for the couple. There, we have more like universal rituals like a kiss, a hug. We need physical touch. So a hug and a cuddle is extremely powerful. But then every couple can choose what has meaning for them. And it
Hmm.
might be from the time that we're dating, right? It doesn't matter. Maybe the ritual is that, I'll give an example. My husband and I, we go to the gym together. It's pretty new. We're still working on making sure we're consistent. But the
Okay.
ritual is it's so fun. The ritual is he makes sure that the gym bag has the headphones and the water bottles and everything. And then, these little things that make it more meaningful than ever.
Hmm.
And then when we're there, talking about the last pillar, the us, I use that opportunity to flirt with him, not with other
Oh,
men.
okay.
No, 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 only with him. And it's even more powerful because I'm surrounded by other men, all, you know, showing their muscles. But what I actually do is when I cross, let's say he's in one machine and I pass by, I will wink, right? Or I will give him some sign of affection, meaning I don't care who's here, I see you. And that makes us feel seen and make us feel cherished. So yes, it keeps the connection. There's opportunity for connection everywhere. But to arrive to that place that you find opportunities to flirt and to play and to connect, you have to do your inner work. Because if you're holding on to resentment, it's very difficult to open ourselves to feel safe to be that way.
Yeah,
That's
I've
why the
worked with,
first pillar is the me.
that makes so much sense because I've worked with so many people who say, I don't want my husband to touch me, or I don't really want to be around my wife,
Yeah.
or whatever it is.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that would make building that us just a way to build more resentment because you're doing something because you have to, not because you want to.
But I also have to say that, the, you know, at that point where you don't feel the love anymore, it's important to remember that it's possible to rekindle. Love is an emotion. It's not a truth. Okay? Love is an emotion. It's not an absolute truth. And emotions can be rekindled. They can be created. And how do we create an emotion? We create an emotion with actions. Okay? I go to the gym, I feel energized, I feel good.
Hmm.
So with actions. So in the beginning, well, people say, well, I don't want to do any of these actions because I don't feel the love.
Right.
Right. And we want to reverse the order. Well, you first need to take action and do the things you need to do to then rekindle the love. So in the beginning, it might feel like I'm faking it.
Exactly. And so many people say, I need to be authentic. I need to be my authentic self. I don't feel like doing this thing. What would you say to them?
That's not your authentic self. That's your hurt self.
Mm, okay.
Love is an active process, not a passive feeling. To engineer a thriving marriage, we have to be intentional. We have to create strong habits and continuously invest in the connection. If you feel the connection is lost, you can commit to invest until you rekindle the connection, and then the love starts to be felt again.
Have you
You
seen
can
that?
make love last, by it has to be designed, not by default. Does it make
Okay.
sense? So when somebody
That
says,
makes,
I'm not,
yeah.
that's not me, no, no, that's the hurt you. That's also not your authentic you.
Okay, what if, because so many people are in this situation where one person in the couple wants to reconnect and the other person's hurt self is saying, yeah, no, 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 no. What is there any hope for that kind of situation?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Change can start with one person. When you shift, look, the first two pillars are about one person. You realize that? Okay, the S is about the couple. You can't have intimacy with yourself. Okay, I
Right.
get that. But the first pillar is the me, the second pillar is the you, are about the individual.
Mm-hmm.
So 50% of that you can start. Now, if you get to the 50%, the rest will follow. You just need to have faith in it. You don't need both partners to start making changes. One person shifting can transform the entire dynamic. More than, I would say that this becomes more an excuse than anything else. You don't need your partner's approval. You don't need your partner's reciprocity in order for you to do what you know you need to do.
What happens, or what do you say to the couple, or have you seen this in your practice that one person comes and they're willing to do the work. They want to do the work on themselves, on the other person. They want to change. Their partner doesn't, right? Or at least says they don't. And so the one person starts to do the work, but the relationship still isn't going well. Now what?
Now the person is going to come to a place that they feel at peace and they will say, okay, I learned what I had to learn. I did my part. I am at peace. I am clear that this is not for me anymore. I think that if you're not clear that you've done your best, if you're not clear you have put maximum effort, or that you have learned what you had to learn, continue. You will know when you have reached the end. But by that point, you're going to be at peace with it
That is
because
so
you are
important.
not going to be reactive. See, it's not so much about the decision and the fact that now you decided to divorce. Is it a reactive move, or is it uh, a move that came from maturity? Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes total sense
Because
because
if it's reactive, you will create more chaos. If you make a choice from a place of reactiveness, you're going to create more chaos out of it.
well, that
I know
also
you've
makes
seen this.
I've seen this so much in my practice because if you've made the decision from a reactive place, that's when you create the mess in your divorce
Mm.
because you're angry, you're upset, you haven't done the work on your own emotions, and it's the emotions that drive divorce. And that's what makes it take longer. That's what makes it cost more. That's what drives up the conflict. So it seems like if people can get to that place where they've done enough work that they're at an acceptance. They may not like it, especially if this wasn't their decision. They may not like what's happening, but if they can at least get to the point where in their themselves they accept it, things tend to go easier.
Absolutely. And not only that, you're basically impacting your next relationship, because if you've done your learning now, you won't bring the lessons to the next relationship.
Is that something when you're talking about, because you work with a lot of people who are on their second marriage,
Mm-hmm.
do these people come to you typically before they get married or after their second marriage? Like, are they coming to you saying, let's get the skills we need to build the relationship before we dive in? Or is it an after the fact thing?
It's an after the fact. When they start, now they're paying attention, right? So now they're very sensitive to the signs that, oh, this might go wrong. So they start paying attention. Now they reach for help. No, they're not in crisis, but they start seeing slowly, and they go, oh, we don't want to end up where we were before. So that's when they reach out, usually.
And if does it make a difference in your work at what point on the continuum people reach out? Like, is it, I would think it'd be better for them to reach out to you when they first start to see the signs rather than waiting until they're in crisis. But am I getting this right or wrong, or I have no idea?
Well, honestly, you would think that being proactive is always better, but sometimes you can only address something when the trigger is very present. So I just, I just embrace them and say, this is wonderful. The fact that you're reaching for help now, first of all, kudos to that, right?
Yeah.
So I just embrace them wherever they are and said, this is wonderful. We're going to make this work. And it's so much easier now that you start to see the signs of drifting apart than when it's a big gap that we need to close, right? So I really appreciate when people start seeing those signs. Okay, we're drifting apart. We don't want to end like our previous marriages. Can you help us?
I love that. And I think that's so important because statistically speaking, a lot of, a significant portion of the people who get divorced once are going to get remarried. And you're exactly right. They don't want to get divorced again. But you mentioned something in your book. I'm not going to be able to find the page now because I'm looking for it. But you talk about a constitution, a marriage constitution. Uh,
Yes.
what is that? I don't know, maybe because I'm a lawyer, that perked me up and I was all excited about that. So can you tell people what that is?
It's so funny you say, I love that maybe because I'm a lawyer. We had two snowstorms and we were watching the city clear the snow. And I said, oh, finally we can see the fire hose. It was a safety hazard that it was covered in snow. And my daughter, who's in law school, started talking about what kind of law suit you can
The
have for that. Yeah,
liability.
liability. Yeah, thank you. She knows the language.
You're
So I said, okay, now everything is going to be about that. I told her everything is going to be about liability.
occupational hazard.
There you go. So the Constitution is really it doesn't have to be a signed agreement. Okay, don't take it too far. You don't need a lawyer for that, but it's really the willingness of the couple to sit down and make a list of the things that they will not compromise on, that there are a no. Okay, now usually people do that on their second marriages because now they're aware. Now they're smarter. They go, I'm not as naive thinking that the love we have now is going to take us, it's going to be enough for the rest of our lives and this person will never hurt me. So this is when you list the things, as I said, that you will not tolerate. For example, but we're really talking about what you will not tolerate, right? The toilet seat is not, or the socks on the floor is not what we're talking here. So smoking, right? If you will not tolerate your partner smoking, you should put that, you should say that. Cheating. And obviously, I don't think anybody wants to tolerate cheating, but what does it mean, cheating? And maybe it means you don't come home drunk in the middle of the night. You don't make financial decisions without consulting me. Okay. That's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Or decisions about the children without consulting me. Or you don't contradict me in front of the children, no matter what I'm saying, unless it's your safety, right?
Right.
So these are the things that you are mature enough to say, I've been there and I know what I will not tolerate. And the reason you want to put that on paper is so your partner knows, we become aware and we avoid that, because at the end of the day, we come from different homes. So for example, one of the things that would be in my list is we don't call each other names. And what does it mean, names? Is it cursing someone or is it telling someone you're stupid? So in my list would be, we don't call each other names. We don't call each other you're dumb, you're stupid, or something like that. I would never tolerate that. Not even, we don't use that with our children either. So this type of language is a no in our home.
You know,
But somebody else might be, what's the big deal? I heard my parents call each other stupid and it was not a big deal. They still love each other. So that's what I'm saying. We come from different homes. And what's acceptable for you might be completely unacceptable for your partner. You need to have these conversations.
But what I love about this is that everybody comes into marriage with certain ideas, expectations, and
Yeah.
we just assume we're all the same and that my partner is going to have those same expectations. And so whether we speak them, write them, or keep them quiet, We still have them. And then what I've seen so many times is that people come into a relationship and they never voice what their no-nos are. They never say, I won't tolerate this, I won't tolerate that. They don't have these conversations. Then time, they get married, time goes on, their partner violates what to them was an agreement. And the partner's like, what?
I
What
didn't
did I
know
do?
that. I didn't know
Yeah.
it was a big deal, right?
Right. And then you've got a giant hurt because to one person it was a huge deal, and to one person it was silly.
That's right. That's right. So we want to avoid that by having, and usually people in the first marriage don't do that, because usually first marriages are when people are younger and we believe that this person will never hurt us and that there's no need for that. But with second marriages, people do this happily. They
Let
will
me,
sit and have, and then listen, it's also an opportunity for a deeper discussion. Everything is an opportunity to go deeper. Okay, it's not just, oh, here's my list, read it, so you know, okay, goodbye. No, this is the opportunity to connect and explain yourself. Why is that important to you? Is that something you experienced in your previous relationship? Is that something you saw in your home that you promise yourself you will not want to bring into your relationship? It's an opportunity to open up and go deeper, which is necessarily for obviously connection. We always want to take the connection deeper and deeper. We need to get to know each other deeper and deeper and develop
so
that emotional intimacy. Yeah.
So is it possible though, let's say somebody, whether it's first marriage or second marriage, they didn't have these conversations. They don't have the Constitution. And now they've got a lot of hurt about you did this to me, and the other person is saying, well, I didn't know that mattered. And you've got it all stacked up. Is it possible, even at that point, after the boundaries have been violated, for them to sit down and have those deeper conversations and sort it out? Like, what if two people just have different values?
I would hope that people don't get married if they have different values. Let's start with that. This is not so much about values, a little bit, but it's more about the things, how you express your values. Because if I have a value for respect, okay, if respect is one of my values, for one person, it might mean I don't curse you. For somebody else, might be I don't call you names. And these are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's how we live our values that we want to make sure that we are in the same page. And to answer your question, yes, it's never too late to do this. But I would hope that a couple that gets married or not married but commits to live together, to build a life together, they share the same foundational values. But in the Constitution, you might talk about how you want to raise your children. What will be a no-no. For one person, it might be important to baptize the child. For another one, says, I don't care. I couldn't care less. And one would say, well, that's a no-no. I will not compromise on that. My child has to be baptized, let's say. And the other person might say, I have no opinion on that. So that's fine. Then it's easy.
Right.
But so these are the things that are important conversations to have at any time. Obviously, if it's about a child, it's before the children are born. But the rest, at any time, you can do this.
Yeah,
Ideally, the sooner the better, right?
of course.
But it's never too late to course correct. That's the beauty of course correction. It's never too late to course correct when it comes to relationships. Our soul craves deep connection with our soulmate. Therefore, we'll adjust. We can course correct. The soul will cooperate.
I love that. And I really appreciate you being on this podcast and spreading this message to people, because I think so many people are hungry to hear something like this, to say, is it still possible? Can we put things together? Nobody wants to make a mistake or throw away a relationship if there's still hope that it can be put together. And your message is definitely one of hope. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Karen. It's been wonderful.
You're welcome. And for those of you watching or listening, You can pick up your own copy of Becoming a Power Couple on Amazon. It's not War and Peace. It's a very quick read, but it's an important one, and I think you can really learn a lot. So if you're struggling with your marriage, trying to decide, should I stay or should I go? Definitely pick up a copy of the book. And Gabrielle, if people want to find you and work with you, where's the best place for them to do that?
The best place is to message me on my website, gabrielaembon.com. And if they're not ready to purchase the book yet, they can download the prologue for free. There's a link to do that. The link is the name of the book, becomingapowercouple.net. You can download the prologue, start reading it, and then hopefully you'll be ready to purchase the book on Amazon.
Awesome. Gabriela, thanks again for being a guest on the podcast. I think you have a message that a lot of people will be interested in hearing. So thank you again. And for those of you who are watching, for those of you who are listening, if you enjoyed today's conversation, if you'd like to hear more conversations just like this with guests who are as amazing as Gabriela, please do me a favor, like the podcast, like the episode, subscribe everywhere that you listen to podcasts or on YouTube. And I look forward to seeing you again next time.